Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Mainhart, and I'm the Outreach Coordinator here at the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation. Today's guest is Debbie Schneider, one of the attorney mediators who has worked here for a number of years. And the topic is, of all things, prenups, prenuptial agreements, how and when, etc., that they should be in place. And Debbie has told me that, she often recommends people to think about this going forward, because, even you never know what's going to happen. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and how and when and what should be included. Okay. Thank you, Debbie, for joining us.
Thank you, Barbara. I'm happy to be here. Prenups are something that I always recommend to my clients as they're continuing to focus on their futures and finalizing their divorce settlement. And many times they say to me, oh, the last thing I'm going to do is get married again. But happily, for most people, that is a consideration when they face their new lives as a single person. Marriages often materialize in their futures. So one of my best pieces of advice is to at least think seriously before entering another relationship to get a prenup agreement. Always a good idea. I think probably in a perfect world, everyone before they got married would have a prenup. But for subsequent marriages, for people who have been married before, it's really vital. You want to protect.
What kind of things should be looked at and discussed?
Everything should be discussed. All right, everything should be discussed. And I think my primary piece of advice, and the first piece of advice I have, is to allow enough time to do this. So I recommend that you start thinking about a prenup when you're thinking about a new marriage. When the subject comes up, it's time to start talking about it. And it's not really just to protect the person who has maybe more substantial assets. So in subsequent marriages, we're often looking at substantial real estate, retirement, business assets, and of course, we're looking at the children of the first marriage, which is everyone's concern.
Wow, great. Okay, and so you're saying that, like, when things are seeming to get kind of serious, that's the time to start having these conversations?
Absolutely. You don't want to wait until the marriage has been scheduled and it's 3 days from now. That's a recipe for disaster. Never recommend anyone try to create a prenup and have everyone be satisfied.
Right, and be accurate. I would even think that it's very difficult to be accurate with all of the statements, etc., in there, and what you're going to do, because you don't have hardly any time for double checking or verification.
Right, exactly. So at the Alpha Center, when we endeavor to create a prenup for a couple, the first thing we do is we try to emphasize that we want both people involved, right? And I want to make sure that they have completed full disclosure. And most of the time, couples know what we're talking about here, and they understand, and they may know about the assets and liabilities of the other partner, but not always. So it can often be a big surprise to find out that there may be assets or there may be liabilities, which is not as good news as obviously.
Right, because I imagine that even during our divorce mediation program, couples can be a little surprised about what shows up in accounts, etc., and would hope that the people going into a new marriage would be able to, especially, I suppose, because there may be children from a first marriage, or there may be something that's is kind of theirs but not theirs, and you just want to sort all of that out.
We absolutely do. And the primary concern, as I've said now, is timing. You really just need to allow a lot of time for this process to unfold. At the Alpha Center, we will provide documents that you can use to record assets and liabilities. So we're not even, we can even assist the couple in figuring out what they have and not just asking them to create that.
Mm-hmm.
And we want couples to be obviously open. I mean, that's what disclosure is all about, is to be open. And then I think with my clients, I would sit down and just talk to them about the shared goal of the prenup. And I would emphasize to them that this is, again, not just to protect the person who may be coming into the second marriage with more substantial assets, but to protect the other party as well. Ideally, both people, particularly those entering a second marriage, often have assets. Those parties often have retirement accounts, real estate, and often they have children, and in some instances they have grandchildren. So, right. So part and parcel really of a good prenup is an estate plan, because they go hand in hand. If you're looking at your future, when you're talking about creating a prenup and what might happen in the future, well, an estate plan is really an integral part of that.
Right. So it's time to do this the right way.
Exactly.
or the best way to for both members of the couple, and hopefully, since it's a second marriage and it's perhaps a divorced person, then they're kind of aware of all of the bits and parts and pieces that need to be thought about.
Absolutely, and that's one benefit of a couple that have been been married and divorced, or married and widowed even. Obviously, a possibility as well.
Right, because
I want to make sure that my clients, after I create a first draft, we sit down together. I certainly would give it to them, provide it to them, and recommend that they have some conversations together. And I would want to bring them back and talk about whether this draft, meets their needs. Does it reflect their shared goals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's probably a very difficult conversation in some respects. It's, some of the reasons that people don't do a will or anything like that, because they just don't know how to do it. But here at Alpha, we can get them through this. It's, I would think, something that would give them a lot of assurance and confidence in their future.
Exactly. It brings a measure of peace of mind to really have this sorted out. And that's why I think it's important that couples realize that it's something they at least need to seriously contemplate.
Yeah. And that way, should something happen, it's not up to someone else to try to figure out what they were thinking.
Exactly. And of course, the common reaction to the subject of a prenup is that people say, oh, our relationship will never end. It will, we're blissfully happy now and we're in love, and we're going to stay that way. And everyone always hopes that is in fact how reality plays out. But the reality also is that marriages do end. They run their course, and life, planning for a future where that might happen is a wise thing to do.
Well, Debbie, thank you so much for joining us today. And I want to invite any of our viewers who are thinking about this topic or would like to discuss it further to give us a call here at the Alpha Center, 800-310-9085. You can find this video and an accompanying blog on our website at alpha-divorce.com should you wish to read more. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.